Well, I am Cecilia Fajardo-Hill. I'm the Chief Curator of the Cisneros Fontanals Foundation, which we know as CIFO. We are a foundation that during the year does programs of grants and commissions for contemporary artists in Latin America. And at the end of the year, every year we do a big exhibition of Ella Cisneros Fontanals collection, which is what we have at the moment here. We have this foundation here. People always ask me, why did you decide to found CIFO here in Miami? It's because we really think that Miami is an up-and-coming place. And we see very much Miami as a crossroads of the Americas. It's a kind of a conjunction of South America and North America. And the public that comes here and what actually converges in terms of culture is very interesting. So we feel that it's an appropriate place for this. And in this specific exhibition that we have at the moment is called Fortunate Objects. And we make sure that every year we do curated exhibitions. We don't like the idea of displaying, highlights of the new collection or so forth. We think that it's much more interesting to do exhibitions which you show ideas, thread narratives, so it actually creates stimulating ways of looking at works against each other. And it's called Fortunate Object because the idea is that the objects which are often discarded, common, boring things from daily existence become something, a way of actually thinking and being a little bit more inspired on our day-to-day, and also thinking of recycling and how things that would be completely thrown to the bin actually here looks so great. And we have many examples. And actually daily objects, also historically speaking, especially from the beginning of the last century, has been a way for artists to actually bridge a gap between what art is and what our existence is. So if you use actually something which is highly identifiable, and then you introduce it in the exhibition or in an artwork as the object itself, or you reinvent the object, it always brings up something which has a resonance, and it allows you to recognize it and think beyond the common and the daily. So that's why we call it fortunate, but it's more fortunate for us and for the object, of course. This exhibition was conceived as a 3 episodes, with 3 chapters in this show. One has to do with the ready-made, and it's basically because it's been one of the strongest kind of tradition in inverted comma that comes from the early 20th century, which is basically appropriating kind of common objects into the artwork. Then there is a second section of the exhibition, which is the object used, and is basically when artists use object as an excuse for something else which not necessarily is related to the object. And sometimes it's difficult to think, for example, photography. You say, well, but photography can photograph anything. But in a way, when you use photograph to, let's say, like in the Rosenblum case, he uses an engine from an airplane in order to make an architectural composition. So it's an excuse. Or Sugimoto, he photographs a piece of an engine from the 1960s. What he does is an enormous kind of sculptoric piece, and so forth. So it becomes really an excuse for, you use a chatbot like Priscilla Monge to say, to have a personal discourse of your mind as a woman. And then the third section of the exhibition is a surrogate object, which is basically when the artist goes beyond the actual object and reinvents a column, reinvents a ladder, and makes an absurd situation which completely rethinks the way you would actually perceive an object. Even the kaleidoscope by Olaf Eliasson, though, is not a useful object in terms of its original context, but it is something when you approach the work, it actually reconfigures completely the space. So it works for rethinking, and the columns in which are made with newspaper, and then they have the shape of a foot, and they're monumental, but at the same time they're very intimate. So we wanted to give a very kind of broad way of how artists may actually use and interpret one common thing in many different ways. Well, in my case, I'm a bit of a mixture because I'm an art historian. I was studied in England, and I'm actually half British and half Venezuelan. I was brought up in Italy, and I was born in New Zealand. And so I've got this, a little bit this spirit that a lot of the art nowadays has, which is kind of very broad and international. We make sure that that's the case. For example, in this show, I think it reflects a lot what I actually believe art and the platform for art should be, which is you have artists which are very famous, like Ai Weiwei, who's one of the big stars of the moment, together with an unknown artist like Emilia Scarate, who is standing more or less in front of it, and she's a young artist from Venezuela that basically has not had a big exposure to the market. But the important thing is the objects. So here there is a vast array of artists from all over the place, from different stages in their careers. So it's a little bit, I think, sometimes it reflects a little bit the curator and the position of the curator, the fact. And I mean, my experience has been a little bit in Europe, in South America, and Miami is a little bit of a conjunction of both. In a way, it's kind of a foot on kind of the south and a foot on the north. And I think is very much where my heart lies and where, you know, my desire to do things lies.
You also have a Miami-based artist here in the exhibition?
Yes, I mean, we included some really exciting ones. I mean, there is one, Leiden Rodriguez Casanova, that has a big fake window, and it's very relevant work because he works all about the idea of the suburbia, the kind of suburbia which is boring, which is completely uniform and nondescript, and, you know, he creates this fake window with a blind which you can find any place in Home Depot, and it will kind of, you know, be repeated again and again and again in all these little Legoland houses. It looks very beautiful in the space, but as a comment about something which is the same the whole time, I think is relevant. Then we have someone like Robert Chambers, who created that absurd kind of type of fluxus instrument with a church bell from Europe. We have another young artist, photographer called David Rosenblum, Guido Albimarini, who's an Italian artist based here in Miami. And then we have a whole series of Latin American artists. Some of them come quite a lot here to Miami. And of course, some that never come to Miami, like, I don't know, Ai Weiwei. Though he sometimes comes too, but I don't think he produces work here. Yeah.
How important is Art Basel Miami Beach for Miami? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think when Miami Art Basel started, I think it just offered an opportunity for Miami to say, okay, let's take this opportunity to start doing good things and becoming an artistic spot on our own right. And I think all of us make an effort to contribute to that. And of course, we make an enormous effort during Art Basel. We all know how crazy we go from one place to the next trying to see it all, and we can't. But then throughout the year, you know, spaces like us, a lot of private collections, which have been also here for a long time, lots of really good new galleries, and also a lot of good local artists. And there are also artists from abroad that are having a studio here, spend some time here. And people are, you know, this is becoming more of a destination. And also, I mean, the Miami Art Museum, who Ella Fontana Cisneros is joint FF with them now, you know, really is going to be a really, really super great museum. So I think Art Basel has been like a catalyst for an excuse for us to all take an opportunity to say, well, we really would like this to stay. It's an opportunity we want to take. And Miami has the right location and the right disposition for actually becoming an art center, an important one.